Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Shropshire Council's Cabinet meeting of Wednesday, the 20th of November 2024. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and can I remind members to please identify your name and role before speaking so that it is clear to those watching the meeting as to who is actually talking. Apologies for absence. Item number 1, we have apologies, unfortunately, from Councillor Carroll and also Councillor Motley. Item number 2, disclosable interests. Do we have any disclosable interests this morning? No. Okay, thank you. Item number 3, minutes of the last meeting held on the 16th of October 2024. I'm happy to propose those.
Councillor Ian Nellens, Deputy Leader, I'll second.
Thank you very much indeed. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4, public question time. We have 2 public questions. Both are going to be read by Tim Collard. The first one is from David Andrew. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks. So I'm going to read each section in part, and then Ian's going to respond. So the first part of the question is this. When the green refuse bin stickers were ordered, why, before they were sent out, was there no process in place to check that the quality of what was produced was fully up to the specified standard?
Sorry, yes, apologies. And the first answer to that question provided by Councillor Ian Nellens.
Councillor Ian Nellens, a portfolio holder for climate change, the environment and transport. Thank you, Mr. Andrew, for your question. Due to a short timescale to put a system in place, the decision was made to use the My Permit system, which was already in place and has been used successfully for several years. They were confident that they could deliver the stickers to both the required timescale and to the required specifications we provided, and there were no issues with them previously. Once the system went live, it was clear that a number of subscribers were causing their supply issues, and the number of subscribers was causing their supply some issues. Whilst we requested samples for several weeks, these were not provided, and as we had no time for an alternative, the rollout of stickers started on the 2nd of October. However, by the 3rd of October, we were inundated with complaints that stickers were falling off, and by the 4th of October, officers had stopped the rollout and a new supplier had been secured.
Part 2, Tim.
The contract made with Veolia appears to have been made in a way advantageous to the company, in that they are now to be awarded compensation for having less work to do. In Appendix 1, this shows as continuing until and possibly beyond 2026. This eventually gets passed on to householders in council tax. Please explain fully what the contract was and how long the compensation will continue to be due.
Councillor Ian Nellens.
So I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say compensation. The council has a contractual obligation to pay Veolia for all the services they provide. In terms of the garden waste, we will not know the total number of customers until the end of the subscription window in March. This gives residents plenty of time to subscribe. From April 2025, the numbers of customers will be known, and we will then review the collection efficiency. And this is when additional savings will be achieved, so that the cost of the service is covered by the revenue generated by those residents who want the service and not those through council tax.
Thank you, Tim. Part 3.
Because the first consignment of stickers was seriously faulty, a second batch was commissioned from another supplier. This meant that postage costs were included twice. Who paid the cost of the postage for the first batch?
Councillor Ian Nellens.
Due to the cancellation, there was no costs incurred by the council for the first batch of stickers.
Part 4, Tim.
The booking of visits to the recycling centres has already been problematic, with the phone not being promptly answered, if at all, and the online booking system breaking down. What is being done to improve the situation? Will Shropshire Council accept that the introduction of booking has been a failure and abandon it?
Councillor Ian Nellens.
The average wait time for the household recycling centre of voice queues since the new booking system went live is 11 minutes 38 seconds. We try our best to answer our calls as quickly as possible. However, as many topics are extremely delicate, and just remind people it's not just the bins that the call centre deal with, such as the death of a relative or reporting abuse. These can increase other customers' wait times. Our aim is to treat all our customers as individuals and work through their issues as professionally and as efficiently as we can, but this does result in longer wait times than we would like to at certain times of the day and week. Since the launch of the booking system, the CSC have made 85 bookings for customers. Residents can also go into council-run libraries, and the staff there can help them with the booking system. In general, the feedback regarding the booking system has been positive. Having visited a couple of the sites myself, I've seen that. I think there is some misinformation that goes about, but also I would refer anybody to listen to Radio Shropshire's interviews yesterday, where they spoke to members of the public who were very positive about their experience at the household recycling centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nens. The second question is from Frank Oldacre. Tim.
Thank you. As the effects of climate change become ever more evident, it is clear all countries around the world will have to deal with weather events of increasing frequency and much greater intensity than experienced previously. Being particularly vulnerable to flooding from the River Severn, it has to be of concern what this means for us. The upper catchment of the river is susceptible to intense rainfall and could see even more than hit Cumbria in 2021, where 300 millimetres fell in 24 hours. This would cause unprecedented damage to communities all along the river, in many places overcoming existing inadequate flood defences. So can we please be advised whether the Council has a plan to deal with such an event, and if not, is such a plan to be prepared? In an outline, it would need to cover all aspects of the emergency, from a fail-safe warning system for all likely to be affected, to actions required as the situation developed, including, of course, necessary help to those affected and the provision of accommodation for people who lose their homes. The number of devastating events around the world in the last year and the consequences we have seen of most authorities not having a robust plan in place is a stark warning that being prepared is a necessity.
Thank you, Tim. And to answer the question, Councillor Ian Nellens.
Thank you, Mr. Oldacre. Shropshire Council is undertaking a wide range of both strategic and operational work in recognition of the challenges faced by the River Severn and future management with climate. Since 2019, the Council has jointly led the River Severn Partnership with the Environment Agency as a source-to-sea approach, bringing together all partners along the full length of the river. The work has led to us to secure over £50 million of additional government investment supporting the future management of the Severn. While some of this funding is being used to address existing flood events by the Environment Agency, for example, at Bewdley, a significant element is being used to develop a comprehensive management strategy for the Upper River Severn Partnership, covering Shropshire, Powys, and known as the Severn Valley Water Management System or scheme. The Council is part of a joint project board for this upper catchment, and the strategy along the Powys County Council, the Environment Agency, and Natural Resources Wales. Community drop-in events will now be taking place to provide an update on this work, with 3 planned in Powys before Christmas, 1 in Oswestry on the 13th of January and 1 in Shrewsbury on the 29th of January. Alongside this major programme of flood infrastructure, the Council leads on and participates in a range of wide operational measures to ensure we provide the best response in the immediate term of our communities. This involves working closely alongside other risk management organisations and authorities such as the Environment Agency and River Severn Trent Water, although through our strategic infrastructure network. We support a range of flood forums, including a newly formed business-led forum for Shrewsbury Town Centre. We are ensuring our development process takes an adaptive approach to managing the uncertain risks of future climate change, and for example, preparing an adaptive flood strategy for our work in regenerating Shrewsbury Riverside. Within our flood management work, we are leading the way in future innovation and delivering a range of demonstrator projects which are testing interventions and with landowners and academics. Over the last 12 months, we have secured 3.7 million as an innovation region to pilot work on the use of digital technologies within water management and of projects in delivery, exploring real-time monitoring and licensing. In terms of robust future plans, we are working with the Environment Agency and through the River Severn Partnership to prepare the 2100 plan focused on climate resilience, which will ensure a joint management approach for the entire Severn Basin. Recognising that the above will take time to deliver over the next few years, I need to be clear that Shropshire Council are a Category 1 responder under the Civil Contingencies Act and as such hold core emergency plans which enable the Council to respond to and recover from a wide range of possible emergencies. During a significant rainfall event in Shropshire, the Council would work with other risk management authorities at Tactical Coordination Group or TCG level to effectively respond to the event. This TCG will be the main link for the Council to request additional resources from central government and or the military if an individual flood event escalated to where the external support was required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nellins. Moving on to item number 5, which is member question time. We have 2 members' questions. Councillor Tom Biggins is the first one, but unfortunately he can't be with us now today. So Tim Collard, I believe you're reading this one as well. Thank you.
His question is this. Local residents are frustrated by the endless delay of Wayne Homes to construct a mini roundabout at the junction of Claypit Street and London Road, as required by an important planning condition. Over the last 4 years, I have asked officers to enforce the condition, have repeatedly requested completion dates, and asked the same in members' questions at full council and also at Cabinet. The Section 278 agreement was only commenced in 2022 after a lot of pressure from me, and the planning enforcement case was only raised after my pushing for this to happen. We are now waiting for design approval, which should have been sought years ago. Condition 12 of the planning consent stated, no development shall take place until full engineering details of the alterations to the Claypit Street / Brownlow Street / London Road to form a mini roundabout junction have been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The highways alterations shall be implemented fully in accordance with the approved details prior to the development being first occupied. This was watered down by a subsequent condition with no fixed time limit, a regrettable change allowed by planning. Had the original condition 12 been retained, the mini roundabout would have been constructed years ago and we would not have had this ongoing saga. Please, can we have a firm date when this roundabout will be installed? This is holding up the resurfacing of London Road. Any further delay is not acceptable.
Thank you, Tim. And to answer the question, Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Biggins. Dan Morris, portfolio holder for Highways. Firstly, can I thank Councillor Biggins for his role in championing this locally to ensure this important scheme is delivered. This project has been met by a range of complex challenges which have taken time to resolve, but I'm pleased to share positive news with Councillor Biggins. Our Highways Development Control Officers have now signed off the contractor's proposals for this proposed mini roundabout scheme. Work is currently underway to review the specific levels to ensure no adverse impact on the footway profile relating to the pedestrian crossing point on Claypit Street on the northern side. The levels are important to ensure that the crossfall of the crossing does not adversely impact upon motorised motability scooters in particular. I can confirm that, subject to weather, the works will now commence in mid-January.
Just to say, I shared that response with Councillor Biggins this morning, and strangely, he doesn't have a supplementary question, but he is extremely grateful. He certainly has worked very hard on that. Thank you, Councillor Morris. The second question is from Councillor David Vasma, who was due to be with us this morning, but has been unavoidably detained at home. And Councillor Roger Evans is going to read that question. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Vasma is, of course, a present mayor for Shrewsbury Town Council, so hence some of his interest in this. He's asking that during the recent Armistice commemoration, which is traditionally held in Shrewsbury's Market Square, it was suggested by the current president of the British Legion that brass plaque be inserted into the pavement as a reminder of Armistice Day being commemorated every year. It would also act as a marker for the location of the commemoration event. Could those responsible for the Market Square investigate this suggestion and report back to myself, Shrewsbury Town Council and the British Legion? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you for the question, Roger. We have no objection to the insertion of a plaque, provided that the groups mentioned can raise necessary funds and have the plaque produced. If the plaque is to be placed within the York paving stones in the square and not attached to any building, it would fall under the scope of highways permitted development rights and would not require any planning permissions. The Historic Environment team can advise on the design and siting of the plaque in order to ensure it is appropriate for this sensitive location in the conservation area. In principle, there would be no objection in this respect.
Thank you. I think you might have a supplementary question, Councillor Evans.
Yes. Given the history of this, Councillor Vasmer is wondering if you could help coordinating a meeting in the near future where this could be discussed and the position agreed, subject to the funding, as you say. But it would be good if you could use your offices to organise, suggest when a meeting could take place so that it can be investigated and the square looked at to find that suitable position.
Councillor Morris.
Happy to facilitate that. We'll pick it up offline.
Thank you very much indeed. That takes us to the end of the members' questions. Now on to item number 6, scrutiny items. We don't have any scrutiny items today. Item number 7, financial monitoring report, Q2 2024-25. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Thank you, Leader. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. We bring forward the Q2 report, and members will be aware that this is now quite an historic report as it's the 30th of September. It only shows a slight better position with the projected overspend at 35 million from the Q1 report. However, what I can tell you is the robustness of the figures as we are 6 months through the year. We are more reassured that what we're actually projecting is correct, where when you start the financial year, it is very much at best guesstimate, if that makes sense. As members will be aware, and opposition leaders, we have been meeting weekly on the collaborative budgets, and where the financial position in the existing year is also looked at in great detail. What I can say for the benefit of those listening is that as of the 30th September, when this report finishes, we have taken steps to ensure that spending boards are being put in place, because in the People Directorate alone, there was still £172 million to be spent within this year. And so funding and spending is being looked at on a day-to-day basis. And I can reassure the board that my senior officer, James Walton, has very tight purse strings. So I'm hopeful that there will be some improvements in this and the projected savings for next year. I'm happy to take questions, Leader, on the historic report, but I move the recommendations as set out in item 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler, and I'm happy to second that report. I'm looking for hands on screen. I can't see anybody. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I note that in the opening paragraph, it is thought it remains possible to secure a balanced position by the year end, but in 2.3, more certainty what position will be by March the 31st. I note the amount of 5.5 million by resizing the council, which was produced just a couple of months ago, has been jettisoned and reduced now to just £1 million. The bottom line of the overspend is reduced, but still well short of the 62 million Cabinet stated would be made, and now, of course, includes the extra money paid by taxpayers as what many call a stealth tax, or should I say, the green bin charge. Even this is less than previously planned and is reduced by around 15% due to the delay caused by the labelling fiasco. I also note the words most likely overspend being 35.1 million. Even the favourable projects, the 62 million pounds shows as not being made. I note later today the reductions in spending on pothole repairs, which we enter the winter with. Also, of course, is the effect that carrying forward the continued failure to deliver this year's saving will have on next year and whoever is in charge of the council then. I would expect they would do a much better job than has been done for the last 15 years. Thank you, Chairman.
Rosemary, sorry, Councillor Dartnell.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I note that there's a fraction of improvement in the central.
You're on mute, Rosemary, sorry.
Oh, I'm not actually. Okay.
Hang on 2 seconds.
Can you hear me now?
I presume you can hear us, obviously, but we just can't hear you.
I can hear
Kirsty,
you,
could I
Rosemary.
just ask if you could just nip to the screen and see if the volume is actually up on that?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with that.
Oh.
It's guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Duncan.
Yes, do.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you, Roger, for the worded question. I shall put from wherever it came from. I can be reassured that the 5.5 million on the resizing will appear in the next periods that come out, and so that isn't of any great concern to us. The amount of savings that have been achieved within year, it makes me wonder, you say about the mismanagement of this council over the last 15 years. When I consider that this council has taken out probably within the region of 400 million pounds out of our annual budget, and yet we have delivered a balanced budget year on year. We have been prudent to put money into reserves, and we have never put this council at any particular risk. So I refute everything you've actually been saying. I'm confident that more of the savings will come forward, as you know they already are, due to your attendance and the slides seen at the collaborative budgets. So actually talking about things where they were at the end of September really isn't a good use of our officers' time. As you well know, things are improving. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwilym. And I'd just add to that, that as you're very well aware, Councillor Evans, this is happening to councils all over the country. And in particular, I will just mention a council in the south of the country in the form of Somerset, who are actually in an extremely difficult position. And they're not managed by the current colour of this administration. I'll just put it that way. This is happening right across the country. But we said we had a plan. We've stuck to that plan, and that plan is turning this around. How are we doing? Rosemary, do you want to try and speak to me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
No? No. Okay, hang on 2 seconds. Oh. Funny. Makes answering the question interesting, doesn't it?
Wise move.
Yes. Just so you're aware, in case you didn't pick that up, you can be heard by the remote participants. We just can't hear you in the room at the moment. So just in case you were going to mutter under your breath at me, Rosemary, we'll be with you in a second.
As if.
I might.
Okay. We will adjourn for 5 minutes, everybody.
Do really need to test this at the start of the meeting, Rosemary, don't we?
Yeah, I think this happened last month, didn't it?
I had made a
Absolutely
great
did.
long speech before I realised that nobody could
Yes, I
hear me.
remember it. Yeah, you'd launched and we're a long way in. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing very well, both of you. Keep it up. Yeah,
Doesn't bode well, does it?
Mm.
I think the reason why moving out of Shirehall is not a
Right. Yeah. Doomed.
I was just talking to Dean earlier today about the setup for Guildhall, and he's saying there's various things we can use, but there's some stuff is just out of date and just need to bring in new stuff.
That's accusing me of bribery, giving you some eggs.
Yes.
Be careful with it. Well, we can lob one across at him if you like. Who is he? I don't know who he is.
Rosemary, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
I'd just like to apologise, everybody. It would have helped if I'd turned my microphone on. Thank you. Rosemary, sorry for the delay, everybody. Over to you.
Thank you. It's worth pointing out again this month, it's the role of opposition councillors to scrutinise the administration's performance on behalf of those who pay their council tax. So I note that there's a fraction of improvement in the year-end projections, the central position for the first 6 months, and the fact that we are now halfway through the year. So that gives us a greater degree of robustness, less uncertainty. But I also note that the adverse projection has not moved very much since last month. It's best described as less bad rather than good news, isn't it? The next 6 months will be critical as we head into winter and what the weather might demand of Shropshire Council, as we're already beginning to see. The critical point, as far as I'm concerned and my group is concerned, is always the third-party spend. Can the portfolio holder confirm what is the percentage of the council's total spend on third-party contracts? And what percentage of spending reductions have been achieved in that third-party spend? And how will those reductions contribute to the overall savings required this financial year?
Thank you, Rosemary. Councillor Butler?
Talking to James, we can get you the percentage, but not the value of the savings to date. But that will obviously be probably be also coming out shortly in the collaborative budget meetings as well.
Okay. So,
James, want to comment?
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Sorry. Just in terms of the council's overall gross budget, it's £709 million. The cost of third-party spend, which includes some transfer payments, is about just over £400,000. So that's 4/7, whatever that is, as a percentage. I can't do sevenths of a percentage in my head. Sorry. But in terms of the third-party spend, as Councillor Butler said, we have that tracked in terms of the savings tracker. So I could give you a live figure in relation to that, but in terms of actually confirming that, we would I'd rather just take a little bit more time and give you a final figure rather than just quoting a live figure direct, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I note in the report on page there is a note in table 3 on page 14 of the agenda today, where it assumes that £34 million is raised by the sale and lease back, which obviously incurs expenses for the council for the next 50 years. But how is that progressing? But because that is mentioned there as part of this expected income saving, which would keep the overspend to the figure that was reported a few minutes ago. And then finally, Chairman, if I can, and then we'll pass over. On page 16, it does show the expenditure and income there in table 4, and it does show that Place Directorate has still got a 25% budget overspend. Is there any expectation that that overspend will be reduced? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Butler?
James, could you update on the car parks, please?
Thank you, James.
Thank you. So in terms of the position on the capital receipts, so there's a number of options being progressed at the moment. So council took a decision in relation to progressing an income strip model. So that is being pulled together. Conversations have been had with our external auditors around that. There is also a variation on that scheme, which is a sale and leaseback option, which provides another route through this. Similar options, just in terms of similar kind of process. It's just a different accounting format for that. Again, that's being considered by our external auditors to ensure that we are comfortable, that they are comfortable with both of those approaches. just to confirm, should we go down the route of a sale and lease back, and that is materially different from an income strip model, we would bring that back to council to ensure we've got approval for that particular model ahead of that being completed before the end of March. There are other options as well that we are looking at. But at the moment, we still have at least 3 options, possibly 4, which we believe are all potentials before the end of this financial year. So I'm confident that one of those will be delivered before the end of the financial year and won't present a problem for the local authority.
If I could just come back, Leslie.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes.
In respect of place, I am fully aware that a lot of those things will be around the Veolia contract, possibly, but we have the Director of Place here if you'd like to comment more.
Mark?
Certainly. Chairman, there are 3 main areas really of pressure there. Veolia, as Councillor Butler has just said, and the introduction of green waste charging, is whilst it's gone well, there's a proportionality part to how we can use that income this year. There's another element which relates to property and freeing up operational property that's dependent upon services and new operating models for services. And there's an element that relates to a range of capitalisation and kind of savings that have been made in that sense. So there is a lot of focus on dealing with that in all of those areas. And in terms of other areas of activity, we're looking to accelerate what we can in other areas of the service.
Thank you, Mark.
Is it okay if I just come back?
Yes, of course you can.
Leader, I'd just like to take this opportunity because I am fully aware how hard EMT, assistant directors and managed budget holders are working at the moment, and the whip is well and truly out. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them, because I think the job they are doing in difficult times with pressures and demand is extremely well done. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, if you would let me say that, as Rosemary said earlier on, as the opposition, we ask the questions, but I do say a thank you for the information that is being published. It is more than it's been previously, so we are better informed, whether it's good or bad, whichever, but I do note the extra information that is being published.
Point taken, Roger. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, I have a proposer. I have a seconder. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 8, Performance Monitoring Report Quarter 2. Councillor Rob Macy.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to present the Performance Monitoring Report for Quarter 2 of 24-25. The report evaluates our progress in delivering the Shropshire Plan, focusing on the 4 key outcomes of healthy people, healthy economy, healthy environment and healthy organisation. In this quarter, we've updated 47 of the key performance indicators, with 20 showing an improvement and exceeding their targets. A notable example is the percentage of educational health care plans issued within 20 weeks, which is significantly improved to 72.97%, surpassing the target of 50% and reflecting our commitment to supporting children and young people with special educational needs. While we celebrate these achievements, we also recognise areas requiring further attention. For instance, the rate of deaths by suicide in Shropshire stands at 12.8 per 100,000 of population, higher than the England average of 10.7. Addressing this remains a priority, and targeted work continues through the multi-agency Suicide Prevention Action Group. As ever, while I'm introducing the report as portfolio holder, I want to highlight that my fellow portfolio holders are here today if there's any detailed questions relating to their areas of responsibility. With that, I'll move the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. And I believe that Councillor
Councillor Chris Schofield, portfolio holder for Planning and Regulatory Services. I second this.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Hurst-Knight, then Councillor Dartnell.
Yeah, Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight, portfolio holder for Children and Education, and yeah, massive shout out and thanks to the team. We had a plan, we've stuck to it, and the way they've worked through quality EHCPs is quite astounding, really. So a thank you. And just on the summary, 2.4 about the development of our KPIs, it's absolutely something that we stick to and develop, and they are, working as a portfolio holder. It's a benchmark for us for improvement, and it's shown with the EHCP. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty. Councillor Rosemary Dartnell.
Thank you. Councillor Rosemary Dartnell, Labour Group Leader. Apologies for not remembering that before. I'd just like to say that the Labour Group very much recognises the work on EHCPs that Kirsty has just mentioned, and welcome that, because it's a situation that I think seemed insurmountable. So there's been huge progress, and we're grateful for that. Thank you. Mine's a small point. It's not really something for Councillor Macy, but just to talk about renewable energy. The PV arrays are most effective when combined with some element of wind turbines to take advantage of the weather variations, which we can all see around us today, particularly. If we can combine any wind turbines in with our PV arrays, that would really help us a lot. And do we have any plans to do this in the near future to bring wind power into our asset base?
Thank you, Councillor Dartnell. I'm imagining, yes, Councillor Mason.
I'm going to nod in Ian's direction.
Looking at Ian and nodding. Councillor Nellens.
Yeah, thank you. I would just mention that with support from our local climate action personnel, we have mapped out areas which could be used for wind turbines. However, obviously, the government stance on that remains uncertain for onshore. Yeah, get it right, for onshore wind turbines. But we are ready if we do get into a position where we can look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Nellens. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I note these, and also that I'm assuming it will go to the appropriate scrutiny committee for that to look at. There are a number of reds within it, but I note especially, and I recognise the pressures that staff are on, but I see on the healthy organisation that the average number of days lost to sickness absence per year is about 10% above target. I think it's something that we do need to look at, because there will be a lot of stress there because of the situation we as a council find ourselves in. So there are a few there that are above target, and I think we need to watch those for the future benefit of the residents.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Macy.
That is one of the ones I picked up with officers previously, and I don't know if James Walton or Gwilym want to pick that up, in terms of there is some reasoning behind those, and it's not necessarily what you're expecting it to be, if that makes sense. So,
Councillor Butler, and I think that's the difference in having the report the way we do it now, is that, you know, it does allow us to focus on those areas which, you know, in the past might have got buried in other areas.
Yeah. It's quite apt that we've got the health and safety report coming up shortly. So perhaps if I break it up then.
Okay, any other questions, members? Nope. Okay, so I have a proposer, I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to, oddly, item number 9, which is the Health and Safety Performance Report 23-24. So this is a report looking back at the last financial year. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Thank you, Leader. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance, Corporate Resources and Communities. I'm pleased to bring forward the annual report for the health and safety of the organisation, which is a key driver under the Shropshire Plan for Healthy Organisation. Really good news that there was no formal action from the HSE within the year, which is excellent. Wellbeing fairs have been held at Shirehall, which were well attended, and we have various locations throughout the county. Occupational health continues to support and seen a slight increase in referrals. Do remember this is for 23-24. Safety data, we've had less accidents during that year. It was down around 10%, which is excellent. And our benchmarking against other local authorities is we are substantially lower. Other local authorities, accident data is 11.7%, ours 4.5%. So as an example, workforce absences, there has in 23-24, there has been just over a 5% reduction in total days lost compared to last year. The top 3 reasons are anxiety, stress and depression, which we're obviously aware of. Musculoskeletal related, I had to put my teeth in for that one, and coughs and cold. I meet regularly with Carol Fox and Tim and the team to discuss this, because it is a great concern to myself, Roger, Councillor Evans, as it is, I think, to all councillors, that as we go through the right sizing, and the changing of the organisation, we have to ensure that our health and well-being of our staff is paramount in all those changes. Other key actions, the team have liaised with Property Services Group regarding RAC on council premises and asbestos management, and visited 5 schools. Challenges for the future, slips, trips and falls, which are ongoing awareness training for staff, and the wellbeing of staff, regularly communication of availability of wellbeing initiatives and counselling support. We need our staff to know that we're here for them, whatever the situation, and don't keep it in. Let's talk about it. That's the way I actually look at it. We are looking at getting the health and safety team slightly more digitalised with e-learning, and there will hopefully before long be a Power BI screen that we can actually look at on a regular basis to actually see how our council is performing as part of our data management under the Shropshire Plan. Finally, I'd just like to thank Carol and the team, because obviously they're at the forefront of how we change and dealing with the staff. So we need to make sure that they keep well as well in leading that. It is a key cornerstone of healthy organisation, and I move the recommendations as stated in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Do I have a second for that one?
Councillor Nellens, Deputy Leader, I'll second.
Thank you. And you've just reminded me, actually, Councillor Butler, and I meant to say this before, but I just might say it publicly. I was talking to a member of staff only actually at the end of last week who said what a good initiative, and they were new, relatively new to the organisation, what a good initiative the mental health first aiders are, and what difference they've made. So please pass that back to the team, that's, it's coming back from the staff themselves. Thank you. Okay, I have no hands. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on now to item number 10, which is the draft Strategic Equality Objectives Action Plan for 24 to 28. This one comes from me. So the Strategic Equality Objectives Action Plan 24 to 28 is with us today to ensure that we enable compliance with specific duties under the Equality Act 2010. But actually, it's a bit more than that, isn't it? Because our approval will also facilitate demonstration of good practice in regard to equality. In terms of alignment with the Shropshire Plan, approval of this action plan will enable our key aspirations to continue to be progressed, alongside further embedding of the 3 national equality aims within council policy and practice. And just to, put those back in front of you, that's advancing equality of opportunity, fostering good relations, and eliminating discrimination, harassment, and victimisation. So our key actions from between 2020 and 2024 were to seek to increase understanding amongst officers, but also amongst elected members, about the challenges faced by people with protected characteristics and people at risk of social inclusion. And you will have been aware over the last 4 years of all the different events and things that we've done to raise awareness of this. So we've had lots of things for staff, whether it be articles about different religions and beliefs, or whether it's about taking due regard of the needs of neurodiverse individuals. And it's simple things like, not having fluorescent lighting, making sure that signage is clear. That benefits everybody, of course. We've also done a considerable amount of work, and I will look at Councillor Hurst-Knight when I say this, on the consideration of care leavers. We've also done a significant amount of work on veterans and serving members of the armed forces, and both Councillor Nellens and Councillor Hurst-Knight are our representatives for our Armed Forces Covenant. And we've also looked at those because they are distinct vulnerable groups, as well as needs of others in regard to social inclusion, such as low-income households and rural households, which Councillor Butler has been involved in looking at the support grants and things. We've also worked to promote positive efforts by our communities. We don't do all of this work. A lot of it is done by groups outside of here, but we always seek to support them, be it the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities. And we've also been working with the number of Pride event organisers across the county. And it was brilliant to see new Pride events cropping up this year. And we also mark commemorations and celebrations, be it Africa Day, Race Equality Week, Stephen Lawrence Day, International Women's Day, International Day for Persons with Disabilities. We use our communication channels to raise all those celebrations and commemorations. The one thing I would like to say is that I was particularly pleased that Cabinet signed the Safe Ageing No Discrimination Covenant, which was agreed by us last November. and it serves as a protocol template to use for further work. I'll also add that our signature to that document has actually encouraged a number of other, well, actually quite a significant number of other organisations to sign up to that covenant, which is so important. So whilst it might not be our covenant, we can certainly lead the way in encouraging others. So the three broad action areas we've been using to help us chart progress have served us well, but the team and myself now believe that they warrant changing, but whilst retaining the intent, if you like. This is partly because we have made progress, and partly as efficiencies may be gained through us making use of what we already have, and further use to be made of online resources, as well as maximising the potential for more partnership working. So the strategic equality action areas we'll be focusing upon in this plan are publishing information in ways that are visible and accessible, analysing and utilising data in ways that are consistent and coherent, and working together in ways that are collaborative and cost efficient. So to conclude, equality legislation necessitates compliance, but let's be fair, it also provides us with an excellent opportunity for reflection on our progress, but also allows us to create a map of where we want to go. So the recommendations can be found at paragraph 3.1, and the recommendation reads: Cabinet agrees to the publication of Shropshire Council's Equality Objectives Action Plan for 24 to 28 as set out in Appendix A, in order to meet the legal requirements for compliance with the public sector equality duty placed upon the Council through the Equality Act 2010. I'm happy to propose that recommendation. Councillor Nellins?
Yeah, Councillor Nellins, Deputy Leader, I'll second.
Thank you very much. I invite comments. I've got Councillor Rosemary Dartney.
Thank you for the report, which is excellent. I just wanted to add to your comments, Councillor Picton, about the SAND covenant, Safe Ageing No Discrimination. Whilst that is essentially an LGBTQ plus organisation, the protocols and the covenant is something that is just quite a spectacular process, or I was going to say document, but I mean process, that I think gives a real prototype for all inclusion, really, which is what obviously that whole work is about. But I just wanted to add an extra vote of thanks to that.
And I think both Councillor Dartnell and I were at a recent event, and I think what Councillor Dartnell said is absolutely true, that there were so many people in that room that actually it was about equality across the whole board as well, and those discussions ensued from that. So as I said, I'm really pleased that Shropshire Council were able to, by signing that covenant and working with the Safe Ageing No Discrimination team, we're actually enabling other people to sign up to that as well. Okay, I have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 11, which is request for an approval to consult on the draft Oswestry Shopfront Design Guide, standing pre-application advice note. Councillor Chris Schofield.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Chris Schofield, Oswestry East, portfolio holder for planning and regulatory services. This report seeks approval for Shropshire Council to undertake a public consultation on the draft Oswestry Shopfront Design Guide, with the intention, subject to any amendments, of subsequently formally adopting the documents so that it forms a material consideration when taking planning decisions. The draft design guide was produced as part of the successful Oswestry High Street Heritage Action Zone, which was completed in March 2024. This delivered a 2.1 million package of enhancements within the town centre. And being from living in Oswestry, the differences made to the high street is quite something, to be perfectly honest. So what I'm asking the Cabinet today is 3.1, the recommendations to approve an 8-week public consultation on the draft Oswestry Shopfront Design Guide, standing pre-application advice note, see Appendix 1, and 3.2, that authority is given to the Executive Director of Place in consultation with the portfolio holder for planning and regulatory services to agree any additional minor changes to the draft Oswestry Shopfront Design Guide, standing pre-application advice note ahead of this consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chris Schofield. And do I have a seconder?
Mark Jones, portfolio for growth and regeneration. I'd like to second it, and obviously Os Vegas, as we like to call Oswestry. It's a fantastic town.
and the shop front has been a real boon to the town, and it's worked well with BID. BID have been a fantastic organisation. I think other towns like Wem are desperate for something like the shop front initiative, and I think it's gone a long way to help Oswestry become a bigger town than it was before, and I think they are queuing up to any shops that come vacant. BID have got a long list of people who want to try and buy shops or move into shops. We're a bit short on the restaurant front, which we're really keen to fill that gap in the market and get the early evening economy going a little bit better. But Oswestry is a good town, and we've got a good town council. Obviously, we had fantastic mayors in the past, me and Chris, obviously, and so it's had good representation all over. And it is a jewel. And I think we need to push some of those lessons out to the other areas. I know Mr. Towers online would gladly note at that. And so this is a good thing. So I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Chris,
just to add, Leader, that we did work with the Oswestry Civic Society on this, and records that were kept in the library of old shop fronts. And this could be used as a template for all of the rest of the market towns in Shropshire.
Absolutely, and I think Councillor Jones is right, and I think the work that the Future Oswestry Group was also that's very important, I think, to Oswestry. But I vividly remember the last meeting I went to before COVID lockdown was actually the sort of wash up, if you like, of that heritage zone shop fronts thing, and the response has been really, really good. And you're right, it is a thriving town and could act as a really good blueprint. So I have a proposer, I have a seconder. All those in favour? Oh, have I? Well spotted, because I can't see that from here. Thank you, Rob. Sorry, Duncan.
Yeah, sorry. Echo much of what the councillors have just said. I think it's been an impressive scheme of joint working. Not quite sure about the Oz Vegas tag. I think we can do a lot better than Vegas in Oswestry. But I do think we have actually shown that by joint working between Shropshire Council, the Town Council, the BID community and Heritage England, we can actually do something about the decline in our high street. It is not inevitable. We can change that direction, and we can make improvements. And I think it's over 20 properties that have now been improved, either as a result of the house scheme or a result of the follow-on scheme that the Town Council has put in to breathe life back into the empties, which is seen about 5 properties now receive assistance from the Town Council, formerly empty properties, to become active relet properties, and that's a fantastic news. So yeah, echo what's been said. I do think there's a lesson there that can be applied to other communities in Shropshire, and let's go forward together.
Thank you, Duncan. I'm sorry, there's a thing on the screen that I'm looking at that blocked your hand, but I can see Councillor Towers' hand. Councillor Towers.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I endorse all that's been said. In fact, we're looking forward to learning from the Oswestry House scheme here in Wemmers. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for mentioning that. But one of the things we've been trying to do is protect our conservation area, and we've got some new shops moved in that are patently not doing that. And I was in touch with Dr. Wigley, who said this scheme was this document was forthcoming, and it'll provide a baseline from which enforcement and things like that can be then take place. Because at the moment, conservation areas, with the stress on the enforcement planning team in all that they have to do, is actually taking a very low priority, and we would want actually to develop our town centre and protect it. So this document is actually very important in doing that, and we welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Towers. Councillor Rob Macy.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to speak in support of the report. It's a great opportunity to build on the fantastic work of the Heritage Action Zone has been referenced. That Heritage Action Zone almost already did so much for Oswestry, restoring historic buildings, bringing the empty spaces back into use and improving public areas. It's made the town more vibrant and attractive, as you've heard from Oswestry colleagues, and the guide will keep the momentum going. The guide seems practical and well thought out and balances the need to protect Oswestry's unique character with supporting modern businesses. By consulting on it, we make sure everybody has a say in doing that going forward for the community. I did just want to take a moment to thank the team, a fantastic team of officers that we have working in the historic environment sphere of the world. Their expertise and dedication are clear when you look at this guide and you look at the work that's been done previously on these projects. And as Councillor Towers said, they're keen to spread that across the area. So it's really good to have that support. So, yep, just wants to be support.
All good. I have a proposer. I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 12, Highways Term Maintenance Contract, proposed 1-year extension. Councillor Dan Moss.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Dan Morris, portfolio holder for Highways. The report recommends a 1-year extension of the Highways Term Maintenance Contract with Kier Transportation, highlighting significant service improvements and cost efficiencies. The extension will ensure service continuity and allow time to develop a future operating model. I'd like to send my thanks to the Highways team, led by Andy Wild, in this negotiated extension of the contract. Some key figures to pull out: 66% reduction in defect costs versus 2021. Right first time repairs at 96%. 2 awards for mixed economy model delivery, Team of the Year and Collaborative Partnership Award this year. And Shropshire Council is seen as a leader now in this field, having recently been contacted by Derbyshire and Lancashire Council for learnings and best knowledge to share with the council, and that is a reflection of the mixed economy model that is being delivered. This contract is now focused on strength and value for money that Kier can bring, and that the spending with Kier is so that the benefit of the contract is that it's it focuses on areas with Kier that benefit the council best and deliver value for money. The spending with Kier in the contract is 50% below where it was in 24-25 is 50% below where it was in 23-24, but the council still utilises the benefit of economies of scale in buying bigger ticket items like tarmac. I remove the report and reserve my right.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I note and we note this report and the contract extensions. Questions we have is, have alternatives been looked at to continue with the present? We do not support what is being proposed here. Communities at all levels over many years have complained, expressed concerns about what is happening to our roads and potholes. And I will remind the Cabinet that this council employed a consultant, another consultant, at £1,000 a day, which the Daily Mail called the pothole consultant. I note the hybrid model, which has been suggested, is now being brought forward by Cabinet, but I also note the failure for many years to address issues that have been raised by many residents with the original contract. And also, I note in the report the difficulties with the insurance claims with the present contract in its current form and the issues that are raised there. And also, later on in the report, at 734, where it is said that the prices do not cover the actual costs incurred. So, as I say, we do not support it and would have hoped that the Cabinet would have addressed it previously to now putting forward at almost the last minute an extension for 1 year. There must be alternatives that we could have used, the council could have used, monthly, 6-monthly, interim, but the present contract doesn't seem to deliver for the past how many years any extra value than what was with the previous contractor, which many expressed comments with then. And I note also that many of the complaints seem to be addressed at the officers who actually drew up the original contract. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I think once again you're being a little bit disingenuous, frankly. As you know, there is a significant issue with the condition of the road asset right across this country. And you mentioned the potholes are, so I'm going to mention the potholes are, because actually it was the work started by the potholes are that has led to us having a what do we call it, a mixed economy model, and that has made significant differences. And I think you heard Councillor Morris say, you know, the value of the contract is 50% of what it was. There is without a doubt an issue with our national roads, and that goes across the country. It doesn't help, of course, that we have a significant number of roads that are neither A or B roads. We have a huge number of C and unclassified roads. Councillor Rosemary Dartnell.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, hold on a sec. At 7.2, there's a grim tale of a lack of maintenance of Shropshire highways, important and vital strategic assets, year after year of austerity, conservative austerity. It's a shocking estimated annual funding gap now of 14 million across all highway assets. An annual funding gap of 14 million we're at. The situation is so poor, the report tells us, it is now difficult to distinguish between failing assets and a failing service or a failing contract. Very worrying. I'd like please to ask a direct question about the mixed economy and ask the portfolio holder to please define how Shropshire Council's direct labour capability is retained and employed. Are those directly employed? Are those agency staff? Please define. Also, between 5.2 and 5.6, there's a convolute explanation of some of the financial aspects. So we're told that it may be possible that there's an increase in the fixed overhead payments of 380,000 or thereabouts. But then at 5.2, there are opportunities to reduce this increase by up to 162,000. So then a potential increase of 210, let's say. And then at 5.4, the available incentive payment should be reduced by 100,000 to 100,000, I think that is as well. So how many staff and areas of the council receive incentive payments? Why are we paying an incentive for, can you just give the criteria for how this incentive is paid or structured into the contract? Has it been paid in recent years when it's been at 300 and 200,000? I think that's something we really need to look at. A contract should be a contract for a job, and I just don't see how incentivization comes in or should come into this. So over all of those points, we're told that the net increase in costs could be 114,000, but we're then told that that can be mitigated by reducing the service, reducing the amount of work ordered through the contract. So the overhead goes up in price. And while all areas of the council are straining to survive the threat of financial collapse, for the highways contract, renewal for a further year means reducing the service to Shropshire residents to keep their roads in good condition, to pay more money to Kia. So once again, Shropshire residents are expected to pay the cost of this Conservative administration's inability to change in the face of a financial crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dartmouth. Actually, I'm going to ask Andy, who's the Assistant Director for Highways, to come to the come down and sit with us, Andy, because I think some of those points that Rosemary made in particular are probably more for the officer to answer. But I don't know, Dan, if you want to be back or wait for Andy to come back in first.
Perhaps I'll let Andy deal with some of the more specific questions, and then I'll have an overall sum up, if that's right.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Thank you, Andy. Good to see you. Thank you. Did you want to pick up some of those points that have been raised?
Happy to do that. Leader, thank you. So in response to Councillor Dartmouth's question, specifically the overhead, I'll start with that one first. So the contract overhead for this contract has been static for a period of time. Councillor Morris referenced the fact that we've significantly cut the spend through this contract. That profit and what the contract was making was helping to support an underfunded overhead. Because we have significantly reduced the spend going through that, we have needed to revisit that with the contractor for the final year. That figure started an awful lot higher. We've negotiated that down. We've done a range of things to reduce that cost. And as detailed in the report, there's more scope to reduce that down further. it is fairly typical of an overhead of this type of contract, and that overhead figure is the lowest in the country for Kia contracts. So I think that hopefully that answers that particular point. In terms of the mixed economy, we have developed this model over a period of time. Those arrangements working for Shropshire now, the staff reporting directly into the council and delivering work and services directly to us through an agency arrangement at this moment in time. That has been the case since the start, and we'll be looking to formalise that as part of the new model in terms of how those resources will be deployed. We also contract with other contractors directly through frameworks, and this blend of activity is giving us the best value for money position across all of the activities that we deliver. And as Councillor Morris referenced, we've been contacted very regularly through local council, road innovation group and other sources to engage with other councils, particularly shire councils, who are finding highway maintenance particularly difficult to deliver with the backdrop of a very difficult budget position and a significant funding gap nationally. And this work has protected Shropshire from the worst impact of those budget pressures. I think the other one I just want to touch on, I think, was Rosemary's final point, was insurance. This has been, again, it's talked about quite specifically in the report, and I felt it was important that that was covered, because when this contract was originally let back in 2018, this came as an issue very quickly, because what the contract is, there's a difference between an input spec contract and an output spec contract. We buy resources via the contractor. What we can see through our data analysis is the demand on those resources, i.e. potholes in particular, is consistently above, at times 3 times above the resource level that we could afford to pay for. And as a result, there's then difficulty when insurance claims land with the council, because we have not been able to fund the resources appropriately to ensure that that liability was switched to the contractor from ourselves. Again, it's something that councils up and down this country are now finding difficulty with, as they simply cannot fund the demand of the network. And we've seen, again, it's in the report, where pothole trends have increased year on year. The mixed economy is helping to keep the pressure off the network and the pressure off our resources. And we've hopefully seen a reduction in insurance claims as we focus resources on A and Bs, where we get most of our insurance claims. So there's a range of things going on to try and support that, but ultimately we are dealing with a significant difference between what the network needs us to invest and what we can. Okay.
Is it possible, please, to come back on some of those things?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just to ask about, so insofar as the mixed economy, my understanding of what Andy said was that we contract with other contractors to bring in some staff, and we have staff who are currently employed under agency setups. But my understanding, he didn't quite say the words, but my understanding from what Andy said was that you're looking to formalise that. Does that mean bring those staff in-house properly, or what? I'd like to understand that. Plus, also, there wasn't mention of the incentive payments. I'd like to understand the framework of how that incentive works, what it's for, and whether it's been paid in previous years.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'll come back to Dan, then Councillor Butler, then Councillor Morris.
First?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the first question, so there are a range of future operating models that this council can look at. It will take us some time to develop those. One of the options would be for these resources to come away from agency working and be employed directly by Shropshire Council. That's one option, and that will be an option that we look at. There will also be other options to consider about how we could deliver these services differently. We could look at another contract, we could look at fully insourced. There's a range of different things, and those will need to be evaluated, options appraisals considered, and then brought back through an organisational process to get some feelers out for how the organisation feels about those options. And again, the ever-changing financial situation will need to be very much considered as part of that. So those options will go through a process, and we'll be looking at developing that over the term of this extension to get us into a position where we can, put on the table what we think is the most optimal model for Shropshire. In terms of incentive payments, These were brought in, I think it was when, back in 2020, when we were having difficulties with the contract. KPIs are the things that we use to measure performance. Those incentive payments are all linked to those 10 KPIs that we have on the contract. So there was an incentive pot created to drive performance and incentivize the contractor to improve on the key areas that we wanted to focus on. That incentive pot comes out as part of the extension, because we're effectively saying to Kier that we've reached a point of maturity and we don't believe that we will be paying. Well, we don't feel this council. I'm not advocating that we continue to pay that going forward, but we have paid it to date. It's quite a small percentage on the turnover of the contract, but it was a very good way, and it's very legitimate as part of an AC3 contract to put an incentive pot linked to KPI performance. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. It was just in response to some comments that Councillor Dartnell made. And Christmas is coming, and now we have a change of government, the implication that we're going to get a far greater settlement for our highways moving forward. I await in anticipation. Thank you.
I thought you might mention that. I wasn't going to mention Christmas, but I was going to say, yeah, well, let's see if the highways pot changes. Councillor Evans and then Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree. I'm waiting for Christmas. I always am, but this year especially. But I understand that Paris, for example, used direct labour for their highways, and I'm not sure if we have actually talked with them to find out ways that they do it, because we are in collaboration with them under the initiative that you started, Chairman. But I do note that in the KPIs, which scrutiny, to my memory, and I may be wrong, but asked to see them many years ago when they were first drawn up. But I see one monthly performance figure provided on time without errors, 100%. I think many residents would query that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Roger. Councillor Morris.
I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, and particularly Andy for coming up and explaining the more technical aspects of the answers to the questions. I think a wider point we need to be aware of is that 60% of our roads are either C or unclassified. We've got 3,500 miles in the county, highways that we're responsible for, and 60% are C and unclassified. At the start of this meeting, quite rightly, we congratulated some team members for awards, and we all stood up and we said, there's nothing political about this. We're just going to congratulate good practice. And then I note that neither leaders of the Liberal Democrats nor the Labour group have had the decency or the courtesy to say thank you and congratulations for best practice done by our highways team. I think that is a nod, and presumably you both have aspirations to lead the council when it comes to 2025 and in the elections. So if that is the case, I would suggest that you actually give a bit of credit where credit is due for what the team has managed to achieve. We've taken £15 million out of the budget of Kier, 15 million. It says in the report that we've got a 14 million underspend, or we're short of 14 million pounds to spend on the road. But yet we've delivered a 66% reduction in cost of repairs. How much more would that sum be had Andy's team not delivered those savings? And I think it's completely outrageous and disingenuous and quite frankly rude that the leaders of the opposition don't have the courtesy to congratulate Andy and his team for what they've achieved.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. No doubt Councillor Evans and Councillor Rosemary Dartnell will want to come back in on that, but I'll take it as read that actually they do appreciate the work that the staff do. But if they want to actually say that themselves, I'll let them do that, but I'm not seeing. Yeah, Councillor Evans.
I think all councillors appreciate the work and the hard pressure that the staff at Shropshire Council are doing. What we are criticising is the contract that this council employs and the staff, not the staff employed by that contract, the way it is managed, what is delivered, whatever the staff are trying to do, it's care that is out there. And as I pointed out, the 100% which says here, that says monthly performance figures provided on time without errors. Well done to our staff. I'm saying that, and I'm sorry we are personalising it. I have said about the contract. I'm sorry, Chairman, through you, I'm talking about the contract with Care. Nothing about our staff, which I have good relationship, and they try to do their best, but they are limited what they can do due to the other problems this council faces.
What I'll come back in and say, Councillor Evans, is that I think I understand what you're saying, but I would also say that, and I am going to say this, that certainly Andy, and I'm sure other members of his team, have worked extremely hard to renegotiate down this contract. And I think, you know, we all know that there are issues with roads, and I've said this earlier on, there are issues with roads across the country, not the county, but there are reasons for doing this extension to get us into the position that that Andy has just talked about, in the respect that, you know, what is the future model going forward? And I think that's what we need to be focused on right now. So, Councillor Schofield, and then that.
Thank you, Linda.
You've got your hand up. You're all going to jump in now. Right, okay, 1 second. Right, Councillor Schofield.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Schofield, portfolio holder for planning and regulatory services. If councillors can't accept KPIs, then there's no point in having KPIs. If the KPIs put in front of councillors, if any of the opposition leaders are questioning them, then they're questioning the integrity of the officers who have put them there in the first place. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Hurst-Knight, then Councillor Dartnell.
Do you want me to speak now, or I'm seconding this? Shall I?
So hang on a second. Yeah, Councillor Dartnell.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say that the Labour Group definitely recognises the efforts of all staff at the council at this difficult time, and in fact in all times working for the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. I did make that. I'm sure I knew that you would say that. Councillor Hurst-Knight.
So you're happy for me to second
Yes,
this?
I am happy for you to second.
Okay, I'll keep this brief. I wasn't going to say too much, but I would like to add to the fact. 2 words, Andy: flexibility, control. That is what this brings back to the council through the work that you've done. Flexibility and control. I know through my work that actually children are safer going to schools. All the work that's been done, including, interestingly, in Councillor Evans and Councillor Dartnell's work, is because of the flexibility of the Highways Department and the work, the cross-portfolio work. So thank you to your award-winning team. Fully support this, because this contract is part of the bigger picture and the work that you are driving forward with control and flexibility, resulting in better outcomes for Shropshire residents. So thank you. Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Hurst-Knight. I couldn't have put it better myself. We have a proposer, we have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. So we now move on to item number 13, which is the exclusion of press and public. I'm happy to propose that.
Councillor Nellens, I'll second.
Thank you very much. So for those of you who are not part of the council, we now ask you to leave the room. Thank you.